Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're going over Gaming News Consolidated. This is where I basically look over articles, multiple videos, and put it all right here in one place for you. These are usually, about an hour long at this point, and they have been for quite some time. Sometimes there's a little less, a little more, but we go over a ton of stuff. So this is through April 27th through May 3rd. We're going to be talking about the Xbox raising prices. We're going to talk about PSN stuff for May that you'll be getting. We're also going to talk about some gaming journalism, definitely showing signs that it's having issues. We're going to talk about Borderlands 4. Took time to watch the state of play a couple of times. We're also going to talk about Arc Raiders. This is going to be a direct competitor, I think, to Marathon. Also GTA 6, which you guys probably already know what that is. We're also going to go over Expedition 33. I don't have my initial look yet, but I have played a few hours. We're also going to talk about the Until Dawn movie and some layoffs and Apple and Madden 26. And man, anyway, yeah, it'll be another big one. So thanks for tuning in. You can always like, sub, all that jazz. But yeah, too, if you enjoy the content, go ahead and share it. Whichever it is. And don't forget, too, we also have playlists out there for a myriad of different stuff. So let's go ahead and get into it. The Xbox rising prices. And man, this is so frustrating because now it's ultimately confirmed that we have $80 games, right? Because Nintendo did it with their first-party stuff. Now Xbox is going to be doing it with their first-party stuff starting in the holiday of this year, like Christmas, Thanksgiving. And then, too, they also raised console prices. So let's go over those first. The Series S 515 or 512 gigabyte edition is going from $300 to $380. The 1 terabyte edition is going from $350 to $430. The Series X digital is $450 to $550. The Series X disc version is $500 to $600. And then the 2 terabyte Galaxy Special Edition is $600 to $730. Like, that's just crazy. Like, the amount of push on that is freaking wild. Let's talk about accessories. The base controller, which I assume is also black and white, is going from $60 to $65. Colored controllers are now going to $70. Specials are going to $80, and limited editions are going to $90. The Elite 2 Core is going from $140 to $150, and the Elite 2 Full, whatever that is, extra features, I guess, is going from $180 to $200. Also, wireless headsets are going from $110 to $120. And this is just so frustrating. Game Pass hasn't changed their prices yet. I do assume, though, that they will go up if they are charging for their games to be now $80, at least some of them. Now, this doesn't dictate third-party publisher prices. They get to set what those prices are. But the first party, generally speaking, for Xbox, so like Fable and Doom the Dark Ages, if it was coming out later this year, or like Perfect Dark Zero, we can expect those games to actually be more expensive. Or Elder Scrolls 6 when it gets here, or Fallout 5 when it gets here, right? Those are still probably a few years away, but you get my point. All of the first-party stuff basically coming out around Thanksgiving and beyond are going to be $80 games, and we're assuming that this is also going to be physical copy and digital copy. They'll have the same price parity there to keep continuity and not screw the market, but I do think it should be at least a different price like what Nintendo is doing. But man, like this is crazy. PlayStation still has $70 games, but I do expect them to also raise their prices. So far, PlayStation has increased PSN across the board and also increased consoles around the world besides basically North America. But I'm assuming that's going to change too. And again, all of these companies are saying, well, it's because of tariffs. And, especially with the physical hardware, they are definitely having a bunch. Because basically, in short, we've had China become the biggest manufacturer of the world. And, we have these tariffs now at 145% thanks to Trump. And we're at a point where, he's trying to bring some of that manufacturing back to the States. Hopefully that can happen, but it also depends on how much pain we're willing to endure and for how long, and also how long China can do it for. And all of these other countries. Again, this isn't just China. The tariffs affect Taiwan and Japan and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, just to give you an example, the tariffs they're based on the retail value. But when we're looking at the Series X or the PlayStation 5, $500 with tariffs in China turn into $1,225 for those consoles, for one console. And so if you're bringing in 1 million consoles, you're now paying $1.2 billion just to get them into the country. And then you still have to raise your prices technically on top of that, sell it for $1,300 maybe, or $1,350 to actually make a profit as a company. And this, again, just does not affect just gaming. This is everything. Anything that is not made in America, which is already going to be expensive because of labor costs on top of it. And but yeah, this is effectively just taking away the cheap labor power from other countries. But this is also affecting China and Taiwan and Cambodia and Vietnam. This is just, yeah, this is all over the place, including the European Union. So yeah, this is going to be a definite issue. But just some quick things that I was thinking about. Next gen, the price will likely price folks out. It's just going to be too expensive. They're not going to be able to afford it. And this will also push more players toward free-to-play games and also more toward PC. But PC is going to go up too because NVIDIA and AMD, they don't make their stuff here. Again, it's made in Taiwan or somewhere else. So again, there's manufactured outsourcing going on, and that's also going to affect them too. So like NVIDIA has a lot of their stuff made in Taiwan, if not all of it, and that's 32% tariff right now. And so what's $1,000 is now $1,320 that they have to pay for to get it into the country. And they technically have like a 50% profit margin, but now they got to sell it for $1,400, $1,500 to make some sort of a profit on it. And well, that's really going to be a problem because now they're just pricing out a whole bunch of people. People that could afford $1,000, maybe they can't afford $1,500 now because that's basically like a 50% increase. So the fact that the tariff is high and they're pricing out people to be able to afford their product, that's going to completely kill their margin anyway. This is also going to push more people toward gaming services. So whether that's Nintendo Online with Expansion Pass, whether that's PSN or that's Game Pass, more people are just going to go that way because they can pay for a month or for, quote, a cheaper price than buying $80 games and actually just play the games that they want or have more access to more games, and there's a value proposition there. Also, I think people are going to hold on to the next gen later because if we're seeing these prices already and then we're looking at next gen, it's like, okay, are we looking at like $700 consoles for a base model or $750 or something? Hopefully these tariffs are all worked out, by the end of the year, but we'll see. And then even if they are, I doubt the prices are going down. So, I mean, no matter what, just the cost of gaming for the general consumer is going to go up. And to eat these tariffs, it's both going to be the company and the consumer. And both are hoping that the prices aren't going to go up too high and that the company is still going to be able to sell product. But both are going to have to eat some of that cost for these tariffs. Because even if they change tomorrow, we have this lag effect that we've been affected with now for roughly a month. And that's going to create some supply issues. And the longer this goes on, the more issues it's going to be. Not just for gaming, but just for anything. I mean, pretty much anything in your home is made in China somewhere. I mean, your furniture, your TV, your lamp, whatever. Everything is pretty much made in China at this point. Over 90% of everything in retail stores, regardless of where you are in the States, it's made in China. It's pretty insane. And then, yeah, this is affecting China too. At least, their citizens and businesses over there, because 15% of their exports as a whole country go straight into the United States. And that's basically not happening right now. So they're still having some shipping over, but even looking at like Marine Time Tracker, there was a heck of a lot more actually coming over. Actually, let me show you this, because this is kind of interesting. So this is a cool website. You can actually take time to basically look at everywhere, right? And every color has a different meaning to it or whatever. But green is what we're focusing on today. So green is retail goods basically, and I can't even tell you. Like there used to be this massive swath, just I mean from here down to here, solid green. The whole thing was just solid green, like this. It literally looked like this. Just a whole bunch of clumped up ships, just packed. That's what it looked like. Okay. Now we have this, and a lot of these guys. Well, some of them maybe stop off, but a lot of them are actually heading down here to go into Panama so they can cross over. But this is kind of what we have now. There's this massive gap. And there's a few, right? This is basically the line going over to Washington, Oregon, and Victoria Island and a few other ports in like British Columbia, or maybe even Juneau at this point. But yeah, that's kind of generally where they go. But this is really, really thin compared to what it used to be. So are there still ships from China coming over? Yeah, sure there are. There's still quite a few. The majority. But like the ships aren't as full, and there's not as many ships coming over. So there's going to be this lag effect. And the time to get from China to ship over here, it's either like weeks or even like a couple of months, depending on what's going on. And then it's still got to get offloaded, shipped to the warehouse, shipped to your store, yada, yada. So it takes time, right? It takes time to actually do this. And so, yeah, the longer this goes on, again, the more that lag effect is going to be apparent. And, when stuff starts kind of disappearing off shelves, if it gets to that point, it will take some time for that inventory to actually come back online. But yeah, this used to just, I wish I could show you a past time, but this used to just be absolutely solid. I'm not even kidding. I mean, it looked like this, right? Just solid, packed full of ships. That's what it used to look like, except it was like thicker than Madagascar. It's just huge. But like, when something happens, it can change shipping lanes, and this is a really cool way to actually see. But like, we used to have a whole bunch actually go through Egypt here. Well, and we don't anymore because of with what the Houthis have been doing in Yemen, and they're still doing this. And so a lot of traffic, literally that week, started rerouting and going around the Horn. And yeah, that's just kind of how things are now, because that's less risky than possibly getting hit and that being a problem. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. So yeah, there definitely are less, but yeah, this is going to be a massive problem. Because yeah, right now we're looking at basically $600 for a minimum. I think more likely $700 now for a console for next gen. We're also looking at the Switch 2 now being the cheapest console at $450. But again, I don't think that's going to be permanent. I think we're going to get to a point where, of course, they're going to go up in price again. Because even with the Switch 2, being made in Vietnam, they're paying $670 to actually get one Switch 2 into the country here in the States. And there's tariffs too between other countries and all of that stuff. So, you got to look up with where you are and with what's coming where to figure out your tariff. But one thing you can use is a tariff calculator to actually work on figuring that out. And there should be one for basically every single country out there. All you have to do is take a look. But yeah, this affects, all of this stuff. And something too I was thinking of is like the biggest thing that bugs me with the raise in prices is that we're not actually paying for the hardware. We're paying more for the software. We're paying for the AI, if you want to put it that way. So Nintendo has an upscaler. They're using NVIDIA's DLSS. So we're paying for that. That's got to be expensive because it's not actually theirs. We also have the PlayStation 5 Pro, PSSR. We know that's going to also be with the next-gen consoles that are going to be helping the price go up. And then Xbox is also going to add their own AI. We got to know that from the FTC stuff that they got to talk about. We got to see some documentation about how they're going to utilize AI for their next console. So yeah, all of this is going to be unfortunately pretty expensive. And then there's also the stuff too with NVIDIA and AMD with DLSS and FSR upscalers, and we're also paying for that as well, along with other features that come with those chipsets. And then too, I'm sure we're going to see Take-Two Interactive, EA, Square Enix, Ubisoft. They're all likely to raise their prices as well, to $60 to $70 to $70 to $80. People are saying too that GTA is maybe going to be $100, which I think how they're going to get there is they're going to sell you the campaign for GTA 6 for $70, maybe $80 now, and then they're going to sell you the multiplayer edition or version at a later date after that. Well, we've also found out that, might as well talk about this now, GTA 6 is now delayed until May 26th of next year. So May 26, 2026. So you got to wait, another 13 months to actually get the game. And then are people going to buy the console at $600, at $700? I don't know. Just to play a video game, especially if you're over on PC, you're probably just going to wait. If you're on Nintendo, you're probably just going to wait. Because, the affordability is just disappearing for a lot of people. It's pretty disgusting. And then I wonder, too, with how much are early access going to be, Ultimate Editions, all of the extra stuff that they can sell you. Is the price hikes for gaming and for video games specifically going to also increase these prices too? Maybe it's not $20 for early access anymore. Maybe it's $25. Maybe it's $30 for early access. So now we're looking at games well over $100. Maybe 120, maybe 125. Super fancy COVID edition is going to be $150. I mean, it just sounds insane. It just sounds crazy. So anyway, this is going to be a wild ride, folks. I'll keep you guys up to date every week when there's something to chat about on this. Because, this is going to be ever-changing, I think, for quite a while. PSN for May games are going to be Ark Survival Ascended, Balatro, which is a pretty good one, and Bolt Gun, which that's a pretty good one, too. So actually some pretty good games for May, finally. Let's talk about Polygon. So the gaming news website, they talk about gaming news, and they have been for quite some time. They've been around for a long time. Well, they've been sold to Valnet, and they also had massive layoffs basically right away. And it was just about everybody. And so there's a skeleton crew over there, but even the co-founder was laid off at this point. And the problem ultimately is that Google stopped actually showing links and pushing traffic toward these gaming news websites because they weren't officially like news, right? Not like Forbes or BBC or CBS or ABC or something like that, right? And so, they weren't technically news according to Google. So, they stopped pushing traffic. And, well, when you have less traffic and less viewers, your advertisers are willing to pay less or not even look at you at all. And so, eventually you lose money, and then, well, you go broke. And so here we are with Polygon. So they actually have been bought by Valnet. Amazing it wasn't IGN, because IGN owns like half of them now. But this has been happening actually for some time. I mean, there's been Eurogamer, and there's been VG 243 or 48 or whatever it is. And there's been some others, of course, too, that they've bought. Rock, Paper, Shotgun, I think, is another one. But it's like, the model for gaming news websites, it's unsustainable. And the way forward is going to be, for people actually kind of going independent and whatever. But if they're wanting to be hired by news, as journalists, I think that ship is basically done. So they got to go independent, do their own thing, start their own channel, Patreon, all this other stuff, and actually compete with everybody else on YouTube and other social platforms. And, it's not a easier ride anymore. That ship is over. And YouTube is really really the one to think about that. So yeah, it's going to be a open market at this point, and people are going to be able to vote with their time and vote with their money. And so all of these people that are getting laid off, they got to be able to compete. Now, maybe some of these will actually be picked up, but again, if where they worked wasn't efficient enough as a business, maybe you're super talented. There's a few probably at Polygon, but most of them probably not that great because people didn't want to read or look at your stuff. I mean, that's the reality of it. And some of these too, not naming names necessarily, but like activism journalism. That's where a lot of these places are dropping out and dying and having to get bought by someone else or just completely disappearing entirely. And like, if activism journalism was a big thing, people would be reading it. There would be plenty of ad revenue coming in. There'd be plenty of clicks. There'd be plenty of views, but that's not happening. And I think what people want more than anything is genuineness and actual news, and to keep politics out of it, because it feels like politics has infested everything. It's frustrating. Excuse me. I wanted to talk too about Giant Bomb. They're also a gaming news website / podcast, and they've also been going for quite some time. But there was a conflict with the parent company, Fandom. So the creative director will no longer be appearing on podcasts. Jeff Grubb also said he is no longer with the company. He's been fired. And he was a co-host for the podcast, so he's gone. And currently, there is a hold on all content starting in May. So by the time you're hearing this, all of the content has been stopped on their YouTube channel. There was also a recent podcast episode that was actually removed from YouTube, which I verified that. And it was after a rebranding policies were mocked on the episode. So that's probably why Jeff Grubb is gone. And yeah, currently there's 473 podcast episodes, but yeah, the last stream was like 12 days ago. So when they're exactly going to start up again, I don't know. But yeah, they're going to kind of rebrand, change some things, because again, they got to get revenue through the door. They got to make sure they get advertising, etc. Because it's a business, right? It's got to make money. Otherwise, it's not worth having around, and it shouldn't be around. That's what we call zombie companies that can't make their own money. They got to be supported by somebody else. But yeah, I'm sure we're going to see some more that are just going to blow up and not exist anymore. We're going to see more layoffs in this gaming news space, and then you got little channels like mine with you guys listening that are choosing to listen to me or listen and or other channels instead of actually going to these websites to get the news. Yeah, it's just fascinating. Like, it's totally changed for everybody. Millennials want to hear something else. Something that's more realistic, more genuine. Instead of feeling like they're slanted, got an agenda going on, being paid off to like, oh yeah, the game's great. It's a 9 out of 10, baby. And then everyone else starts playing it. It's like, wow, yeah, this is dog garbage. And, this is like a 5 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10 or worse. And then those game studios get, shut down and lose money. So, yeah, I just can't seem to win. But honestly, I'm excited to see that there's some clarity coming to the gaming news market. And not just gaming news, but just news in general. Because also, like, CBS is in some serious pain. And they're going to be making some changes over there. And, they have to. Because, again, there's not enough revenue there. There's not enough money coming in. And they also had a huge lawsuit for interference and defamation. And, but yeah, it's the way of the world. Like, this is becoming a more even playing field. And the ones that have been in control, they're not anymore. And I'm thankful for that. Because we're starting to actually have some real news, real opinions. There's more of them. And everyone else is intelligent enough to make an informed decision instead of these legacy media companies and gaming news outlets telling us what we should be thinking. Of course we can think for ourselves, absolutely. And I'm all here for that. So I took a look at Borderlands 4, and this, initially I was like, But it got better as I was watching this, because this was about 25 minutes. Link in the description if you guys want to watch it for yourself. But it looks better than Borderlands 3. And it's definitely better than Tiny Tina's Wonderland, in my opinion, just by sheer level design alone with how they've done stuff. So it kind of harkens back to the days of like Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3, again, where it's more open, you have vehicles to travel. It should be great. And so yeah, I'm actually excited for that. This is what we do know. I'll just go through this list real quick. But we have 4 new Vault Hunters. The story follows after Borderlands 3, so it continues. We have 2-player split screen, not 4-player, so that sucks. But it is more like a drop-in, drop-out co-op. That's what it looks like. There will also be cross-play at launch. You'll have new movement, where you can glide, climb, grapple, and double dash. And there will also be fast travel to your party. So you guys don't have to stay together and then someone gets left behind, like yours truly, and then I got to spend the next 5 minutes trying to keep up. And yeah, that's luckily not going to be a problem for me anymore. That'll be wonderful. Also, there's not going to be really any loading screens. The way they put it, there might be a few, but generally speaking, there's not going to be any more loading screens between the 4 regions in the game, so it's just one big, massive open map, which in my opinion is why it's two-player split screen and not 4. I think if they had the loading screens in there, they would be able to do 4-player split screen, which I wish they would, but unfortunately, the hardware just can't handle it, so that's not going to work with 4K and cartoon graphics and all of that stuff. 1440p would have been fine. We're also going to have vaults, which are going to be like hidden dungeon runs, which sounds actually pretty cool. You're also going to be able to personalize your vehicle for travel. Think of it like a hover bike with guns. That's what it looks like. There's also going to be events and changing weather in the game that will kind of make more dynamic gameplay, and things will be different for each region. That's kind of nice. There will also be difficulty settings that you can set to yourself personally outside of your party. So it's not you just jumping in with your party, you all picking a difficulty level, right? But like you can set your own difficulty outside of your other party member, which is really nice. There's also 3 new gun manufacturers. There's also randomized gun parts for some of the higher rarities that can spawn with multiple gun manufacturing parts. So you can have something like your gun barrel from Hyperion, your gun frame from Vladov, let's say, and then your magazine is from Jacobs. So like you can have these kind of different parts. So like the possibilities now for your gun to possibly be whatever is basically now endless. It's absolutely endless. And now they've also added these 3 other gun manufacturers for I think a total of 8 at this point. There's also gun enhancements or mods. There's also alternative firing modes for weapons. And then there's also underbarrel attachments. There's also legendary drops are going to be more like special events, and they're going to be harder to come by. So there's going to be a focus on actually trying to work toward things, actually trying to seek some of this stuff out. And it's not just going to be like in Borderlands 3 where they were just felt like super common and lessened the value of everything else. But yeah, there's actually going to be some work now involved with getting some of these legendary drops, which is also nice. They've also added ordnance, which are basically like big weapons, and these are going to have cooldowns instead of just ammo reserves. And these also won't take up a weapon slot. So you can have 4 weapons plus your ordnance. And the thing that they showed was like this massive twin barrel, heavy 20 millimeter machine gun looking thing that you just have on the front of your chest. Just and that looked pretty freaking awesome, actually. That looked really exciting for me because I love firearms. So yeah, the full deep dive, that's linked down below. The release date is moved. September 12th now. My theory is Sony and Gearbox worked something out. Gearbox got a deep dive to be on PlayStation State of Play. They were completely on their own as well. There wasn't anything else advertised during the State of Play, just Borderlands, which was really weird. We've never seen Sony do that before, but it also shows, I think, that they don't really have anything to advertise right now. Hopefully they show something this summer. in June or July to actually get us excited for something. Something. Because, yeah, it's really starting to look pretty sad. And then in turn, Marathon could be left to itself on the 23rd. And so Sony could hopefully kind of be by itself for a little bit and hopefully get those sales that they're looking for. Because, yeah, they don't want another Concord. So that's kind of my theory of why Gearbox actually moved the date for Borderlands 4. They got some extra publicity. They got to do some publicity for probably cheap. And then in turn, it's like, hey, we'll move the release date by a couple of weeks. So they did say, though, that it was because they just feel really confident in their game, that they don't need the extra time. So they're just going to put it out there. Maybe both are true. That's possible. But yeah, Sony's State of Play on its own was just kind of weird. Like, it didn't feel like a State of Play. There was nothing fancy about it. And yeah, Sony didn't really have anything to show for itself. So yeah, I hope we have another showcase at some point, because we're going to have another one from Xbox. And yeah, it makes me wonder, if they really have much to show. We know they gave a release date for Ghosts of Yote, which is October 2nd. And we have Marathon, which is September 23rd. But again, they've been doing these and showing these outside of their states of play. So again, it just feels kind of weird. States of play might be kind of dead for a while. Let's talk about Arc Raiders. So there's been a public test that actually ends today. Probably when you're here, maybe when you're hearing this or the day after. And I already feel like it's better than Marathon. So we have proximity chat, which Marathon doesn't have. We have attachments on guns that can be removed and crafted, again, with which Marathon doesn't have. We can also level up our guns. And we can also add mods to our guns. And we also have blueprints. So we can get some nicer guns. So all of that is in Arc Raiders. It also looks better. It's more aesthetically pleasing. I have a better idea of what's going on. It's not like way in the freaking future or whatever. It's maybe like 100 years where people are scraping off of what's left of humanity, basically, while everyone else is in Zion underground in the Matrix. And I mean, it's great. And I mean, it's like I can relate with everything. I know exactly what's going on. In Marathon, it just doesn't feel that way at all. There's also 3 maps plus a testing range by yourself. And from what I got to see is that there's roughly around 20 players per map. And maps, too, also have different difficulties. And then the NPCs, the little ones are okay. But once you start getting to some of the big ones, they're pretty insane. And then, too, some of them are big enough where you have to work with people more than just your own team, more than just the 3 of you. You have to work with other teams to actually bring one of these massive robots down. And I got to hear from one player where there were 12 people, 12 players trying to take down one machine, and they all died. So, and this is just... the game isn't even released yet. It's supposed to come out sometime later this year. I'm assuming after Marathon. But, yeah, that is just kind of crazy. So there's going to be a benefit to having proximity chat there. You're going to be able to talk and be like, hey, do you want to work on taking this down? Do you want to loot together? And yeah, the whole thing of getting backstabbed or actually having a great experience and raiding a whole bunch of stuff and you both leave together or both teams leave together. I don't know. It'll be incredibly dynamic, I think, and that's something that Marathon is already missing. But yeah, overall, the thing feels more challenging. Everything takes time. Everything has risk, even reloading, patching yourself, your movement. All of this stuff. And what you do also affects everything else too. So if you're damaged enough, you're slower. Or if you're crouched. Or if you're out of stamina for running. Or if the robots that you're shooting at have taken enough damage, that also affects them too. So there is a pretty high level of detail here for combat. And that's really cool. All of the sound design also sounds really good in the game. It's punchy, it's clear, and everything that you're doing also makes noise. Whether you're reloading, bandaging yourself, crouching, standing back up again, all of these little teeny noises you can actually pick up on, and they're all different, and you can figure out what other players are doing without even seeing them. So yeah, there is a whole new level to this game that Marathon doesn't even seem to have. So if you're interested, you can go ahead and link down below. You can listen to my little review that I did of the test. I did take a look, too, at the passes. It's built a lot like Helldivers, like their bonds in the game. But each kind of like battle pass, if you want to say that, is 500 coins, which I'm guessing is $5. I hope that's the case. I would love it to be $5, but maybe that's more like 50 or somewhere in the middle. I don't exactly know yet. We don't get a look at the store, but there's also blue tokens too that you can actually earn in game, and then you can unlock some of this stuff in the pass. So you have to have coins to unlock the pass, and then you have to use these tokens to actually unlock stuff. And I don't particularly like that very much, but again, it's another mechanic to get you to buy microtransactions. So, oh well. It is what it is. And then, yeah, GTA 6, just another note here real quick, is delayed May 26th, 2026. So 13 months away, and EA's stock did drop quite a bit again. Or not EA, Take-Two, excuse me. And, yeah, their stock dropped a little bit because of the delay. And yeah, the delay. I'm not I mean, a whole nother year. I kind of wonder if it's because of tariffs. Wondering with just how much turmoil and chaos there is right now in the market, and the prices going up for everything. I mean, you wouldn't want to release something in turmoil. Probably wouldn't go so good, and people already feeling kind of broke. You would want more things to be stable, calm. You're more likely to have better sales that way. And more people, too, to also focus on your game. So, I mean, they're going to sell a lot anyway, but I certainly feel like they want to maximize stuff. Plus, too, when people are maybe used to $80 games next year, they could just be like, hey, it's $80, it's $90, it's $100. And people would maybe be more accepting of that. So, the last trailer that we had for GTA 6 was 2023. It's basically been 2 years. And, hey, what's another year, man? Why not? They always delay their games anyway. Let's talk about Expedition 33, Clair Obscur. Man, is it a wonderful storytelling game. The combat is fun, too. Turn-based usually is not my thing, but they keep you engaged this time. And just a few hours of playing so far. Man, it's just visually beautiful. This is probably the most beautiful game I've played with Unreal Engine 5. It looks really, really good. By the way, Arc Raiders is also an Unreal Engine 5 as well, and it looks really, really good. It runs really, really good. And I gotta say, too, with Expedition 33, it's generally the same way. There are some performance issues with Unreal Engine 5. Sometimes in performance mode, I'm having 33% frame drops while I'm playing, or while I'm watching a cutscene at a stable 30 frames. So, yeah, it's not particularly good. You're seeing some of that stutter. Again, this is kind of an Unreal Engine problem. I will say, though, that this time the hair actually looks good. In some games, the hair doesn't look good with Unreal Engine 5, but this time they took more work with it or knew how to use it better in the engine, and yeah, the hair actually looks pretty good. But it was the first thing to tip me off was the hair, and then it was like quickly having the performance issues. It's like, oh yeah, I think this is built in Unreal Engine 5, and sure enough. But yeah, even though it's turn-based combat, it isn't boring. You have a parry and a dodge system, and then also matching prompts to increase damage. And so it's awesome. The character development too, and how they're developing the story in the beginning, it gets you hooked, and it gets you in the feels, and it's just great because now you're actually curious what's going on. And they have several actually that are back to back at the start of the game. So like you have the intensity starting out right in the beginning, and it's wonderful to actually see that. And the game too, right now it's $50. It is really cheap. It's also on Game Pass Ultimate. So far, they've already sold over 1 million copies so far. So they've already made over $50 million in profit. And it's probably profitable at this point. Last I heard is that this was like a 20 or like 25 or $30 million game. So yeah, they've already made plenty of money, and I'm sure they will continue to do so. But yeah, they sold over 1 million copies by day 3. So yeah, they're doing wonderful. And again, too, it's been mentioned through other small developers that they're thankful to actually be on Game Pass because of just how many eyes get in front of them. And then some of those users are actually buying a copy anyway, even though they have it available. So yeah, again, this is a really small developer. It's 30 ex-Ubisoft devs. And it's amazing. And the game, again, is just focused on telling a story, telling characters. There's doesn't seem to be any real focus of an agenda or identity politics or social classing. Like, yeah, I mean, you get to live and breathe and learn about the world with these characters, through these characters, and you get to learn their story and then play through it as well. And it is awesome, dude. It is really good. I'm excited for my weekend so I can actually get into playing this again. And yeah, with games now going to $80 and just things being expensive, I think we're going to see more smaller teams for devs because we're getting to a point where things are just getting too expensive for the consumer and also for some of these big party developers. And so, but yeah, 30 members for a team making a game for basically 4 years. Excuse me. It's going to be a better business model, I think, because you're not going to have to sell a ton of copies to actually be profitable. But, when your game is $300 million, that's going to be pretty challenging. Let's talk about the Until Dawn movie. It's not great. It's not great. So far on Metacritic, the critics have a 48 out of 100. Excuse me, I had quite the cough there. We're almost done here, I think. Yeah, we're pretty close. So yeah, both of the scores are pretty close to each other. But unfortunately, Until Dawn isn't really following the story of the game very much. It's very much like this is kind of like Groundhog Day, where they are repeating a day over and over again until they can escape. And every time they die, there's some other thing they have to deal with and figure out and try to escape. So, fairly good in the beginning. And then just, I guess, completely goes off the rails. If you're interested in a full review, you can go ahead and go to the Angry Joe Show, link in the description down below, and then you guys can actually pull that up and go ahead and watch it. It's about 40 minutes long, I think, 50 minutes. EA has actually updated their number of layoffs for their publisher. So we're not at 200 anymore. We're now at 300. Respawn still has 100 layoffs. And so far for the year, we have 2,200 layoffs for the gaming industry so far. So yeah, just keep that train rolling, baby. And too, like if I was at a studio, any studio at this point, I would be worried. Because yeah, if your game doesn't do well, especially with one of the big publishers, you're probably going to go bye-bye. Or at least there's like a better chance. So yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, I've been saying it's like we're going to continue to have layoffs. And I still think that through the end of this year because if everything's going up in price for gaming, there's just not enough money to go around. Maybe something's good, maybe something's better, but ultimately there's only so much money. And with people such as myself feeling the pinch, I like Game Pass because I have more access and I can just play the games that I'd like. And I don't need to buy them all, but if they're really good, I'll buy them, right? Like Expedition 33 when I'm done playing it. Or like Liza P, for example, would be another one. But man, yeah, there's just not enough money to go around. So I'm sure we're going to see some more layoffs before the end of the year is over by quite a few studios and publishers, I'm sure. Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers, we finally got a release date for this. This will be July 24th, 2025. And I think we'll see more firm dates now that GTA 6 has a firm date into next year. And I think we'll start seeing a better rollout for games that are still to be announced. I think they'll actually start getting some release dates now. Because, yeah, GTA 6 is, in many eyes, such a wrecking ball. I do feel too, though, with Wu Chang coming out, we're kind of having this saturation of ninja samurai games because we have Yote, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Onimusha 1 and 2 remastered, and then Onimusha 4. We also have Ninja Gaiden Black and then Ninja Gaiden 4 coming out later this year. We also have Shinobi, and that is all this year. That's a lot, and we had more last year, and I'm sure we still have more coming. And I think this all started with Sekiro when it came out in 2019. So yeah, ultimately, I think people saw how popular that was, how much attention it was getting, how many sales it got, and so yeah, things have been in development for a few years since then, and now they're starting to come out, and I'm kind of worried about this saturation a little bit. It could get to a point where, yeah, there's just too many. We'll get through this, folks. So Split Fiction will actually be getting a film. So Sweeney is going to be producing and starring in it. Director is going to be from Wicked, and then it's also going to have Deadpool writers, which I'm assuming Deadpool Wolverine movie. Wife and I really enjoyed the game. You can go and watch our review if you'd like. We worked through the entire thing and then gave our review after about a month or so. But yeah, we really enjoyed the game. And so, yeah, we'll probably be seeing the movie too. And I hope they stay true to the movie because the way they executed the story and had the development of the characters in it was actually really awesome. So, I hope they have the budget to actually do that. That would be pretty cool. Okay, let's talk about the Switch 2. I just want to make sure I reiterate this for people because the issue of physical copies is becoming more prevalent, and I really think at this point physical copies are just pretty much a dead thing, even now with Nintendo, except for their first party. But yeah, let's go ahead and dig into this a little bit. So many of the Switch 2 games are actually going to be on servers that you'll have to download, and they're not going to be on the cartridge that you buy in the store. The case that has the cartridge, it will say at the bottom whether you actually need to be downloading this or not. So the cartridge for many games, many third-party games, are going to be having a license inside the cartridge itself to be able to register with the servers at Nintendo, and then you'll be able to download the game. The thing that will be nice is that you'll actually still be able to sell the physical cartridge, but again, you don't have the actual game files on it. It'll end up being just like a lot of physical copies, like on Xbox and even some also on PlayStation. So yeah, and this is really disappointing because, we don't really own the physical data anymore, and that's pretty frustrating. We do know that Cyberpunk will include the DLC and the quote graphical upgrades. It'll be downgraded for the Switch 2, but it will include the base game and the DLC, and it'll all be on the cartridge as far as we know. Updated price too will be $70 for the game. And so yeah, these are going to be expensive, and that's something too. It's like, okay, now we're at $70 to actually pay for a worse version of the game on the Switch 2. And like it just, yeah, overall it really doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I don't think a lot of people are going to buy third-party games if they have another console available. If they have an Xbox or a PlayStation or a PC, because that'll be the better way to play. Graphically, the best place to play graphically should be PC, but usually the ports are horrible for PC. And so then you're on Xbox and PlayStation at that point is probably the better way to play because, yeah, most ports are horrible for PC, and then the Switch 2 isn't going to be able to keep up either. But yeah, it just doesn't make a ton of sense because, like, again, with the Nintendo Switch, they have DLSS upscaler from NVIDIA to help with better frames. We have the ray tracing, too, in our video games, and also at 4K when it's docked. And it's like these upgrades, these benefits aren't really for Nintendo games. They don't really need those. It's really for the third-party stuff to actually be able to run. Because, yeah, their third-party lineup is huge. You should take a look. The only Switch game that's actually going to be available at launch is Mario Kart World. That's the only one. Everything else that's going to be available at launch, there's like 15 games, and those are all going to be third party. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. We will also have some Switch 2 editions as well, but we're not actually sure. Pretty sure most Switch 2 editions will actually have all of the game data on the cartridge itself. But yeah, again, just be sure to check the case when you're buying these and do your research for actually what's on there. Apple was fined $500 million for violating Digital Market Act in the EU, European Union. So this is basically for presenting app makers being allowed to compete in Apple's store. And Meta was also fined $200 million for pretty much the same thing. So this sounds like a ton, but this is a slap on the wrist really to these companies, because Apple made $124 billion in one quarter. So yeah, I mean, $500 million is like nothing compared to what they make in 3 months. And Meta also makes billions per year. So yeah, I just really wish, these fines actually did some damage, and actually took a chunk out of the profits, like it was a percentage. I would actually like that if it was actually a percentage. So, last thing we did hear about, well, no, we got a few more things after this too, don't we? Yeah, we do. So Madden 26 found out will actually be skipping PlayStation 4 and Xbox One consoles. And kind of wondering if that was the majority of the players, but I don't think so, because they have the data of where their players are actually playing. So they feel like they can actually skip that. But hopefully that will actually improve what they can make for the next iteration of the game, because they've been using the same animations, the same engine, the same bugs and stuff occur every single time they launch a Madden game. And now we also have college football. And it's just incredibly frustrating that they that the older hardware is still holding that stuff back. Plus, too, it's got to be challenging also for the devs, because they got to be making stuff for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Series X, and Xbox One, and then plus the PC port. So it's like when you're making all of these versions of the game, that's got to take a lot of time. It's also got to cost some money, too. And I think in the future, or at least pretty soon, that companies are finally going to be dropping last-gen support, just so that they can work on getting these games out more efficiently and at cheaper cost. I mean, that would make sense to me. But and then, too, if that's the case, maybe they don't need as many people also at their studio, so that could help with unfortunate layoffs and, save them costs there. But, yeah, it's a business, folks. Like, I know we've been talking about gaming news now for 2 years, and there's just nothing really overly good about all this. I do wonder though about other sports games, if they're going to do the same thing. So EA for FC, or like other sports that they do. We do know that the next Battlefield is going to be for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So yeah, it's not everything that EA is doing. They know where their players are. And it seems like a lot of first-person shooters, those players are also on last-gen consoles. So, but yeah, wherever they can save some money, save some time, save some development costs, they're going to be doing that. I do wonder, though, how long we're going to have to wait for, like, the next-gen consoles when they get here. How long before they actually drop support for the Series X and PlayStation 5. Because and then the games won't be able to be made probably for the Switch 2. That's usually pretty normal. I mean, the Switch 2 right now is playing at like a PlayStation 4 level-ish. And so by the time we get to PS6 and the Xbox whatever, those games are not going to be able to run on the Switch 2, most likely. So, and how long is it going to take to actually drop support for that last gen? Because this generation so far, we're going 6 years from hardware that was released in like 2013. I mean, think of that. 12 years ago. And we're still making games for that. And again, it's like people had trouble upgrading this time to this current gen because of supply chain issues, the cost, and some other factors. But there's also something with just like making for the previous gen is holding your project back, making your dev time longer. And I think really 6 years is too long. Certain games, they're going to do it anyway, but is it really going to be necessary to upgrade when the next gen gets here, regardless of where you play? Because it's like if they're going to continue making games for those, 5, 6 years in, good gravy. I mean, you can get all the way to like 2032 before you'd have to upgrade. Like, think about that. That's crazy. Of course, it still wouldn't be the best experience, but you'd be able to wait to buy a pre-owned one at a cheaper cost and then be able to upgrade that way. Yeah, it's just crazy. This is the longest generation I think that's actually been supported, except for maybe PlayStation 2 on PlayStation 3. But the PlayStation 3 didn't really sell that well. But yeah, we'll have to see with the pricing and everything else how many copies they actually sell. Because yeah, I still think they're pricing people out of the market at this point. In a couple more years, people really aren't going to be able to afford a $700 console. And I'm assuming that's what it's going to cost, like $650, $700. But yeah, it almost feels like this gen was a premium console, with last gen being the gaming option for everyone else, because of how long they've been making games for those last gen. I think ultimately at 3 years, that should be the cutoff. You just drop support and you work on those that have been, making the game, because they're the ones probably buying your microtransactions. They're the one buying your game. They're more serious players, so they're also buying the accessories. They're buying the DLCs, and they're buying more games. But then this also too means you're kind of catering more toward, quote, the whales of the industry, the whale players that have a ton of money or are willing or able to spend more money, and then the casual gamers are just getting left behind. And I'm sure we actually have a heck of a lot more casual gamers now at this point than actual gamers. Because yeah, it used to be expensive too back in the day. I mean, like a PlayStation 1, I think was $250. I want to say in '95, and that was a ton of money. I mean, $100 back then was a lot. Today, it doesn't really feel like it's much at all. But yeah, we'll have to see what next gen is like. I mean, I'll be covering it here. Absolutely. Forza Horizon 5 has been out almost a week, and it's been selling pretty good on PlayStation. It's number 9 on PlayStation Time Tracker for the last 7 days. So yeah, it's probably sold pretty well. But yeah, the players are playing about an average of 2-hour sessions, which is longer than most on PlayStation Time Tracker. And I'm sure it'll drop off after a while, but so far it's already sold 1 million copies over at PlayStation. So that's actually pretty good, especially for a game that's like 5 years old now. It sold another 1 million copies, and it was also one of the top 10 pre-ordered games too for a while. So yeah, there was some good sales there. Oh yeah, man, we got to talk about this. The Star Wars Grand Collection by Aspyr. Let me pull this up. Now, I really want to mention this because I feel like this is more of a money grab than anything else, and I'll explain why. But let's watch the trailer first. Make sure it's turned up enough. Okay.
The dark side is strong in this place.
So that's the trailer. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because, it's May the 4th. Some people are definitely probably going to buy this, but this is going to start showing up in the store more as time goes on for this, into next week. And the thing, the reason why I want to talk about this is, let's see, where is it? Here we are. So, yeah, this is pretty frustrating for me because this is for the Switch and the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. And not for Xbox. Though the thing with Xbox, a lot of these games are already available because of the backwards compatibility list that they have. So let's go through and look at these again. So we have Republic Commando. You can actually buy just the old version and play that, I believe. But yeah, you can always look at the backwards compatibility list. But this you can also just buy off the store right now. We also have Jedi Power Battles, which was just released by Aspire in January, I believe it was, of this year. We also have Star Wars Racer. You can just buy that as well off of the Xbox store, the original versions. There's also Star Wars Force Unleashed. I don't think you can buy that one, and I don't think that one's on the backwards compat list. You also have the 2 Jedi Knight games. A Bounty Hunter was also done by Aspire, I believe, last year, which was a pretty bad port in my opinion. It was not done well. Graphically, very minimal work, and the audio was trash. So there was definitely some audio problems. And then we also have Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. And these you can also buy hard copies of from the original Xbox, and you can just play these. But the whole reason why I'm bringing this up is because I want to take time to actually, look. I want to take time to actually look at some of this. Because the character models are not redone. Now, it looks nice, like the grading there and the lighting. Okay, that looks nice, but again, these are just retextures. These are not remakes in any way. These are remasters, so it means it's the original game, the original feel. It's just like Oblivion remastered, right? That's not a complete remake. It's the same product remade in a different engine. Yes, I understand that. But it's not redoing all of the models. It's not rebuilding in a whole new engine. It's just Unreal Engine 5 overlaid texturally of Oblivion. Okay, and this is the same idea, except the quality that Aspire does is not good. Because it's I'm sorry, it's just not. Every release that they've had, in my opinion, has been horrible. It's had bugs. All of them have had bad launches. Servers haven't worked, etc. They haven't released like a good one yet, except maybe Soul Reaver 1 and 2, though that one I haven't played. So yeah, these models are not done overly well. Again, this looks awful, but yeah, this is going to be in 4K, but again, it's not really going to matter because nothing's really done for that. Now that looks pretty good, but that's video right there that they're using to sell you. So yeah, again, some of this looks pretty good, but yeah, there's no depth here. And yeah, this is exactly what it looks like. So, I mean, it looks better. It definitely looks better, but this looks actually a little better than what I played. But again, it's not great. Yeah, maybe they upgraded this a little bit more. Because, yeah, the Bounty Hunter that I played was brutally bad. It didn't even look like a remaster, to be honest. And again, this is going to be pretty basic. I mean, like the weapons and the style. So there's a little bit more detail there, right on his head. And you can tell that's like an ATST. So yeah, there's some graphical improvement. But again, the layout and the design, it's just texture overlay for a lot of this stuff. And then, yeah, here's another one. You know, pretty basic. Again, things actually definitely look better. But yeah, these are not remakes. Now, this actually looks pretty good. And again, this is the same thing. This is actually the same models because you can see the little hexagon there instead of a circle like it should be. In my opinion, you know, they should redo the models. But yeah, this is just retexturing over and making it 4K. And this is actually pretty fun to play. I actually still play this. And then, yeah, we're looking at the boxiness of the droids and kind of like the square head. You know, Maul actually looks pretty good, but Qui-Gon looks a little rough. But again, a lot of this stuff is pretty boxy, pretty pixelated. And yeah, it's not a remake. Okay, this is just the original models with texture upgrades, and that's it. And that game still has the same bugs too, unfortunately. And then there's Republic Commando, which is a blast of a game. But again, I imagine this is going to be the same thing, so that it looks pretty good. Like the lightning here, right? That actually looks pretty well done. But again, it's a lot of the same models. They're not redone here, because even this right here at the end, like that texture at the end of the magazine looks pretty bad for current gen stuff. So yeah, it's not the type of remaster that we want. So in my opinion, folks, this is something that shouldn't be purchased right away. Take a look at reviews. If I had the money, I'd buy it, and I would review each game for you guys. But yeah, if you can buy the older ones and actually get them on your platform, then yeah, I would just buy those, or I would just play those. Like a lot of these you can actually get on Xbox, except for I think the Force Unleashed. I think that's the only one. I think and I think Jedi Outcast. I know you can get Academy, Bounty Hunter, Aspire already redid. Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 you can get. Republic Commandos on the store. Racer is on the store, and Aspire also did Jedi Power Battles. But excuse me. The thing that is also frustrating is that I don't believe you can buy these Aspire remasters individually. Actually, let me look. So yeah, it doesn't. Well, yeah, let me check one more thing. Yeah, there's also a remake technically coming still. But again, if this is the quote remake that we get, I'm not going to be very happy about that, because again, it's not a remake, it's a remaster. Again, it's just better textures over stuff. And yeah, it doesn't actually look like you can get any of these separately in the store. So you just got to buy these. Now, you can probably grab all of these on Xbox. Well, maybe even Force Unleashed. Let me look. Yeah, so Force Unleashed 1 and 2 are here right now today. They're 65% off. And then if we look at and then yeah, there's just Jedi Knight Academy. That's the only one, unfortunately. But yeah, either way, if you like Star Wars stuff, definitely poke around. That's probably out today, or they're probably all discounted, in my opinion. Even Star Wars Outlaws, you can get that 50% off right now. Because, yeah, they definitely need some more sales for that game. But yeah, the thing that's disappointing for me personally is they're not allowing you to really buy these individually. Aspire has already done Bounty Hunter, and they've already done Star Wars Jedi Power Battles. And then they've redone the rest of these. But again, they're not the type of remasters that they want. They're like generally minimum quality. And then the thing, too, is that we're also missing a bunch of games. So where's Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2? Aspire did those already. That's the classic collection. And that's been fixed. It actually runs pretty well, but nobody plays it anymore. But that's not in the collection. Why not? Aspire already did it. Why isn't it in there? There's also the other ones that they haven't done either. So they haven't done Starfighter or Jedi Starfighter. They haven't done the Dark Forces remaster, which I would just work a deal with them and get that into the collection. They could get a little bit of money. Why not? But yeah, there's a ton of games that actually haven't been redone. And then we also don't have the Force Unleashed 2. Realistically, you probably wouldn't even need to, quote, remaster that one. You could just put it in the collection. It would be graphically better than the rest of them. And so, yeah, it's really disappointing because there's a ton of stuff here that's not actually in there. Oh, yeah, including Rogue Squadron as well. That's also not in there. And these are like some pretty classic games. So they're missing some games. Aspire's remasters are not done well. And then they're not allowing you to actually buy these individually. So that's frustrating. And they want $90 for this. Now, it does look pretty good. Okay, that's $10 a game, and maybe that's worth it. And then they're not selling this on Xbox, which I'm thankful for, because in my opinion, they're not really better. And you can buy all of these games except for Jedi Knight 2. You can buy everything else off of Xbox already. But yeah, this is just frustrating because, and I don't think it's necessarily Aspire's problem either. I think they're being forced by Embracer Group to just crank out stuff. I mean, last year, over a 13-month period, they put out like 12 remasters. I mean, think of that. That's crazy. That's crazy. Like, they are literally churning these out in months at a time. Bounty Hunter looked a little better in the trailer, but again, for the actual game, we don't know. We don't know if that actually looks better. So, yeah, it's just frustrating. But it's just my warning to you guys is, wait for the reviews. Or if you don't have access to any of these, maybe it's worth it. Or put it on your wish list. Wait for it to get on sale. I think actually right now on PlayStation, it's on sale for $45. And at $5 a piece, that would be a deal. But yeah, this is just frustrating because, yeah, the quality's not there. There's a lot of games that are missing in the, quote, grand collection. So in my opinion, it's not a grand collection as a Star Wars fan. And then, yeah, the remasters, they're just not good. And then they're not letting you buy them individually. So if you already bought Bounty Hunter, if you already bought Jedi Power Battles, you can't just buy the other ones that you need. So, yeah, they're just trying to get more money. I really see it as a money power grab that are just going for it. Also, too, I wanted to update Nintendo Switch 1 stuff. Looks like you actually need an internet connection now to play. There was someone that had lost power for several hours, and they were just going to play some Switch games, and only one of their games actually worked because the rest of them needed an internet connection. So it looks like there's been a change there to Nintendo's infrastructure and ability to play, which is horrible. And then, two, if you also want to share your game between multiple consoles, like some people, of course, have multiple Switches in their home, and they want to play with family members or whatever, well, now you can't do that. You now have to buy a second game if you actually want to, quote, share the game. So when you actually share your game file or your cartridge or whatever, and you have it downloaded on another one, you can't actually play the game on both consoles. You can only play it on one at a time. Because now you get a notification that says, oh, you're sharing your game. So even though you have all of the files right there and you're lending the cartridge out to someone else, it knows that you don't actually have the cartridge, that you have two games in the same place, and it's not letting you play them both at the same time. So this is going to be pretty frustrating for families or for couples because you've been able to do that since forever. Have files on one, cartridge on another, and play together. And now you can't do that. So that's just an update from Nintendo, and I'm sure this is how it's going to be ultimately too for the Switch 2 as well. But yeah, physical copies, needing an internet connection, $80 games is just a mess. Like the coming generations of consoles for Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation, I just can't wait to see how they're actually going to screw you up. And it's frustrating to me. And again, the value proposition really isn't there for a lot of it. And then graphically, what are they going to give you? Better ray tracing? 8K resolution. It's like, no, we don't freaking need any of that. This is getting ridiculous. So anyway, hopefully you guys are doing well. Thank you for watching. You can always follow me at GamingGarbage22 over at YouTube. I do these once a week. Don't forget to our playlist. We have reviews in there, initial looks, playthroughs of stuff. Poke around in the playlist. There's plenty of other stuff there. Then you can also follow me at Twitch at Don't Turn on the if you like. And man, it's just frustrating. But yeah, for your week, just trudge on, man. You know, for some people, it's tough to see the nice weather out there. There's other people too. Some of you are going through rough times in life, rough patches. But yeah, just keep your head up. Okay, it's okay to get beaten down sometimes, because then it shows you how good times can be. They can give you a focus to work toward in the future. So with that, folks, I'll see you guys on the next one.